concerned about grade, and several of you have reason to be concerned about your grade. So here's what I've decided I'm going to do. It's something I have never quite done before. It might be that some of you do not do well on a multiple choice test. Well, the only kind of tests there are, there's either multiple choice, true, false, or fill in a blank, or essay. The next question will feature about 6 or 7 multiple choice questions. Then in the next test will feature about 6 or 7 multiple choice questions. But I thought, hey, if you think that you cannot do well on a multiple choice test, you are welcome to write about a 2-page essay. And I'm going to put this on iCollege. Either today or tomorrow. You're welcome to write about a 2-page essay. And I mean, unlike what you get at the big university, I'll tell you what I want you to answer any one of these 4. How did Islam rise? How did it become so powerful? A bunch of reasons. Yes?
So we would be writing this on test day, or are we going to
write it here in the class. So you can practice it at home all you want to. Go and bring a sheet of paper and write it here in the class in place of the multiple choice. Now please, those of you who have a 70 or above average, do me a favor and go ahead and take the multiple choice test. Because number one, it takes me a whole lot of time to grade an essay test. And I had a department head one time in Vegas, please, when it comes to final exam time, give a multiple choice test, because you can run through a Scantron and whoop, it's great. Essay, it takes hours. So I don't want all of you jumping to the gun and taking an essay test where I have to read 35 essays plus 34 in the other class, 69 essays. By the way, that reminds me. Now, it may change, but I checked this morning. As of 8 o'clock this morning, all 69 pupils in my 2 classes are still registered. Nobody has dropped. Now, if they dropped yesterday or the day before, it won't show up till next week, but it looks like all of you are. So what I'm going to try to do now, there's another way you can pass the test, pass the course that'll help. One of the students in my other class turned in a proof that this student had attended a symposium on the American Afterlife. Well, this symposium's over with. But you can find out where the symposiums are and when, number one, by checking your email, or number 2, they're posted on the doorway of the Student Center and the cafeteria. Now, folk, anybody want to guess what kind of grade this student had already before she turned this in, this person?
99.
Already had an A average for the class. That's the way it works all the time. Just like when I say, I'll give 6 points to someone who turns their paper in before a certain date. Who turns their paper in? The students who don't need the points anyway. Nevertheless, okay, I'm going to give this person 2 points for attending this symposium. Then I think one symposium is about physics. Hey, I don't care. Now, at the symposium, there is a sign-in sheet where you can sign in. I just learned this morning. And then I'm welcome to get a copy of the sign-in sheet or see who's attended. So that's one way I can verify who attended and who didn't. You sign the sign-in sheet. But there are some symposiums coming up. Again, they're advertised on the emails, or they are they're posted. All right. Anybody else have? Yes. There is a symposium coming up. This one, some people who heard about it said it was a really good symposium. All right, so that's one way to bring your grade up. Yes?
How much extra credit do you get per symposium? And
2 points. Now, 2 points added on to your final average. Now, that may not seem a lot, but in one case out of 5, that's going to raise your grade by a letter, except for the ones of you who already have an A sewed up anyway. But then about one case, because you'd be surprised, at the end of the semester, I come up with a whole bunch of 89s, 79s, and 69s. Now, I might fudge the 59s, I might go ahead and pretend that they're 60s or do a little bit of juggling. I do. But the other ones, I don't fudge. A 69 average will jump up to a 71. And you attend 3 or 4 symposiums, folks, it's almost certain to bring your grade up by a letter, unless you're an A student already anyway. So that's one way you can bring your grade up. Again, this is perfectly legit. I mean, I checked with my department head for it, but I had a note from another teacher who commended me because 2 or 3 of my students attended, and she signed that they had attended and commended me for offering it because they bring in these really high quality speakers, and they like for students to show up. So that is one way to bring up your average. I just want to emphasize that. All right. Yeah, but there was this thing about the, again, if you have an above 70 average, please take the multiple choice test, do well on it. There'll be some true-false questions on this one. And there'll be some true-false questions on the next one after that, which I've been feverishly working on today. The next test after that is November 5th, but anyway, that's another issue. All right. Anybody else have any questions?
What basically are we writing about? If
Just-
you like you write an essay also.
Yeah, write a couple of pages. And believe me, you can write 1,000 pages about any one of these. I mean, you know, there's been book after book written. What were the shortcomings of the American Indians? I mean, you know, but I don't want 1,000 pages. You can't write that in a 50-minute test time. But I think you can write 2 pages front and back. So if you do have below a 70 average, and again, you can check on you know who I'm talking about. If you have below a 70 average, not counting the pass, but on my multiple choice test, consider taking this route, writing an essay, and I'm telling you the essay in advance. And yes.
Can we use those questions for our essay?
Yeah, indeed. Excellent. Somebody was asking, hey, should we use the questions for your essay that you're going to write for 1,000-word essay? Indeed. Yeah, good point. Now, speaking of paper, one of you said you're writing on the Great Wall of China. I heard some about that on a talk show yesterday, that the Great Wall of China really was a disaster because it separated China from people it needed. I'll be right with you. In other words, it cut off trade, cut off foreign influence, and like we Americans, we could not put together automobiles without trade, we could not drive our cars without trade. We simply cannot put up a big wall around our country and isolate ourselves, was the point. Okay, let's see, go ahead, Dave.
So if we were to write an essay, would we have to start with an answer?
No, you can decide on Wednesday. Just bring in a sheet of 2 of notebook paper. Huh?
This is next Wednesday, right?
The what?
Next Wednesday?
The next Wednesday, yeah, next Wednesday. That's the date of the test. You take it in place of the multiple choice test, which some of you, I mean, I don't know what the problem is, folk. I had trouble with filling a blank because on a multiple choice test, the answer's at least in front of me. Fill in a blank, I mean, I've always had this problem. I'd know the answer, I'd studied it, and then my mind would go blank, and I couldn't fill it in. Yeah, that was my problem, filling a blank. So I always liked multiple choice test, but and if you ever learned it, it should come back to you. But I've had persons just simply cannot handle these multiple choice tests. And I've talked to others who say they have students with the same problem. Some students do well, ace them, and some don't. All right. Anyway, symposium, all right, that's coming up. Now, I've been asked again about the American Indians. I am going to check and see if there's any other questions on the American Indians on a question on your test that I did not go over. But the reason I skipped them is we spent a whole lot of time going over the last test. It got me behind. So I decided, well, I've got to cut corners somewhere, so I skipped the rest of the American Indians because I think Islam is more important. All right. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Again,
Does this apply to the last test as well?
what's that?
Does it apply to the last
No,
test?
it applies to this test that's coming up. I mean, I've had students say, can I take the test over folk? That is contrary to the rules of this school. Just like extra credit is. However, giving points for attending the symposium, that is legal. And other teachers have done it. Not many, but a few. That's legal. And giving points to persons who turn in their assigned paper early, I've always done it, and I don't think it makes, I don't want to have 69 papers turned into me all at once if I can help it. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Just wanted to, yes, you.
When's the day to turn in the essay?
I believe it's November 10th. Something like that. It's approximately November 10th. Now, early November 3rd.
Yeah, it's about 4th.
What's that?
It's about 4th.
4th, November 4th and 11th? That might be. No, it's somewhere around there, the 4th or 11th, November 3rd, somewhere in that time frame. Yeah. It's on the syllabus.
Is when you turn it in, or where you get the extra credits to turn it?
And one of them is a week earlier than the other. All right, here's what I believe. I believe it's, the extra credit is November 3rd. And turn it in regular time is November 10th. I believe that's right. November
It's either
3rd.
November 10th or the 14th.
It's the 10th. Okay, somebody has your syllabus here. Believe it or not, I never printed up my syllabus. Yes.
Yes.
For you to check it and give it back to us, do you want a hard copy or just?
I'd have, well,
Because you know how you said you.
I will, and nobody has done it yet. I will. Hard copy.
Hard copy to check
It's just,
over?
yeah, hard copy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's breaking my own rules, but all the same. Number one, I did it to my teachers. And number two, believe it or not, it's easier for me to grade a hard copy with a red pencil or red pen and a marker than it is for me to grade it online. But I want it online because it does seem to deter plagiarism, which is a big problem among college students. I hate to say it, but it's a big problem. All right, well, any other questions? Okay, we need to move on. Something I did not mention last time, the numerals that we use are sometimes called Arabic numerals. I'm talking about numbers. Hopefully you recognize these numbers. Again, because they came from Arabia. Without Arabic numerals, folks, arithmetic, as we know, would be impossible. Again, you cannot do long addition of big numbers or addition of multiple numbers with Roman numerals or other number systems. You simply can't. But we're using Arabic numerals with a 0. Again, you couldn't have algebra either without Arabic numerals because algebra involves Arabic numerals. To think the Arabs started off like they were really going to go places scientifically, but they stalled, they stopped. And I mean stopped cold. All right. Now, if this will help you any, I'm looking at page 189 and again over at page 190. The word Abbasid or the word Umayyad will not appear on your next test. Why is that? Because I never learned the difference. I mean, I know that one of them took over for a while, then one of them gave way to the other. I know that, but I do not know which one is which or which one did what. And again, I never learned it as a child, owing to the fact that when I was in school, this part of the world was simply never mentioned. I mean, hey, in 1969, I took a course in recent American history. The textbook was a 700-page book that had with a title was since 1900. And I still have the book. It went from 1900 to 1969, and folks, there were only 1 or 2 paragraphs mentioned of the Islamic world. That is how little we thought of it as recently as 45, 46, 47 years ago. We forgot about them, just left them alone. They were so unimportant and so far behind, but then they got rich from oil, and then the United States gave them their weaponry, which they are now using against us. Some of you might have heard this already. The other class acted like they had.